So I'm going to do part 3, and it's interesting. It's taken me around 6 minutes to read one whole page. Okay, this is going to be interesting, but 6 minutes. And how many? About 250 pages? 6 times 250. It's a lot of minutes! But I'm learning. I'm just taking my time with it. Okay, continuing part 3. What do we mean by learning disabilities? Okay, now we're getting into it. Now, what do we mean by learning disabilities? What conditions should we include and what should we ignore? Precise definitions are hard to come by, but if we're to explore the practices of the past, we should develop sharing understandings about what it is we're talking about. There is widespread agreement about 3 key characteristics. Get the old fingers out. 3 key characteristics. It's nicely bullet pointed as well. People with learning disabilities have relatively restricted intellectual capacities and often require practical support to live safe, happy and healthy lives. Yes. So in order to get a quality of life that is on equity with everyone else, there is that additional support that people with learning disabilities need. It's interesting, this is the first time he says here people with learning disabilities, but the first time I've ever been introduced to the way he described learning disability adults, something like that. Let me just check. I haven't imagined it. I'm sure I read it somewhere. Was at the back. Okay, people with learning disabilities. But I'm sure I read somewhere introduced the new framing of that. Instead of saying people with learning disabilities, learning disabled people, learning disabled adults, like autistic adults. It's like an identity first, and I've never heard of that put like that before. So that was eye-opening a bit. Yeah, an identity first language. Okay, so the 3 key characteristics: people with learning disabilities have relatively restricted intellectual capacities, and most were born with their condition, and their impairments are not curable through medical interventions. Important to point out that some people develop it due to an accident, trauma, all sorts of reasons as well. And then thirdly, learning disabilities, physical disabilities and mental illness are distinct phenomena and should not be conflated. Yeah, so, and of course mental illness will include depression and anxieties. A range of tests have been devised to assess the extent of such impairments, but these largely reflect the priorities of the examiners. Indeed, it is now generally accepted that it's more useful to understand what is needed for people to thrive and to categorize them in terms of intellectual deficit, let alone the unscientific notion of mental age. But as we'll see, the intelligence tests endures in the popular imagination, and stigma surrounding a low IQ is widespread. Yeah, society is so judgmental. Judgy McFudgies, that's what we are. Unfortunately. Learning disabilities should, I believe... What's that? Okay. Learning disabilities should, I believe, be distinguished from learning difficulties. Yes. That's what I say. Always absolutely spot on. A term best used to describe specific challenges like dyslexia, dyspraxia, and dyscalculia. While these can often be managed, even relieved, and don't affect general intelligence, a learning disability is more profound and permanent. The two sometimes overlap. The word difficulty, which is often favoured by self-advocates, is, I suggest, all too often a euphemism for what is, by any standard, a genuine impairment. Okay. The causes of learning disabilities are legion. Thus, everyone who has Down syndrome has a learning disability. Interesting. I didn't know that. As do some, but not all, people with cerebral palsy, spina bifida, and other physical disabilities. Oh, I mean, some people might disagree. There is a growing number of genetic syndromes which affect cognitive abilities, and about a third of people with learning disabilities experience epilepsy of some kind. Gosh, a third. And also a third of autistic people have epilepsy, at least. Some autistic people, just as I said that, the next line's really, I honestly didn't see this. Some autistic people are also learning disabled, though by no means all, and the confusion of autism with learning disabilities is one of the many things this book will attempt to disentangle. Brilliant. Finally, some cognitive impairments are caused in utero. I'm not sure if I say that properly, at birth or in early infancy, but for many the etiology is unknown. Right. Some learning disabilities take so many different forms, it's wiser to think of a loose cluster of associated manifestations than a single piece of diagnostic evidence. The standard British categorisations are mild to moderate, MLD, severe, SLD, and profound and multiple, PMLD, learning disability. And a whole alphabet soup of further subsections, right. But these are evolving fast, along with the growing view that all such categorizations are ultimately counterproductive. Contradictions are rife. Thus, some learning disabled people are non-verbal. Others chatter away happily. I know a few of them. Some have problems with physical coordination. Others are remarkably dexterous. Some enjoy human contact, but others are introverted. These are just normal human personalities, like just as everyone else. Some have an innate musicality, while others are distressed by audible stimuli. Yep, the crucial point is that generalizations are best avoided. Exactly, just as everyone else. When you've met one person with learning disabilities, it's sometimes joked, well, you've met one person with learning disabilities. And that's what we say about autism as well. If you met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. One consequence is that it is almost impossible to establish accurately the size of the population affected. There are said to be 1.5 million individuals in Britain with some form of learning disability. I didn't know that. Just over 2.2% of the population, but this is hardly definitive. The condition, if it can be called a condition, is found in every demographic, rich and poor, educated and otherwise, geographically widespread and ethnically diverse. No group is exempt. Just a minute. There was a thought in my head. Wait a minute. So 2.2%, okay, fine. Okay, the condition, if it can be called a condition. That's a contentious description, because I was interviewing a really lovely theatre professional, and she lovingly said, instead of learning disability, learning difference. Now, I appreciate that there are impairments, as Stephen explains, and by having well-meaning ways of describing somebody as having a learning difference rather than a disability, and also not learning difficulty, learning difference, it shows that it kind of enfolds all of us together. Every human being has a different way of learning, and so by describing everyone with that learning, what I would say when I do my training, deliver training on autism is that autistic people have a significant difference in their sensory needs, because everyone has senses, everybody, but autistic people have a significant difference in their sensory input, or the impact of sensory, whatever the world throws at us, and how our senses process things. So that significant difference can be hypersensitive or hyposensitive, or the opposite. So similarly, when it comes to learning disabilities, I like the description of learning difference, but significantly different. Although I appreciate that the argument that by not calling it a disability, you're ignoring that it is a diagnosed condition, and there are sort of significant needs in order to help those of us who have learning disability to get those, to access that support. But I still, I kind of can't stop thinking about the term learning difference, because it's very encompassing us as humans together. We all think differently. It's just some of us think we all learn differently. It's just some of us learn significantly different to the majority. In this case, 1.2%. Is it 1.2% or 2 point? Sorry, I read it wrong. Just over 2.2% of the population. Sorry, 1.5 million individuals. Okay, so this one's quite long, but I like this. Part 3. End.